What do you think in the middle of a cost of living crisis, much as you're arguing for your workers, in terms of tone, what do you think that the majority of the British people think when they hear your boss, Mick Lynch, say, I'm looking forward to creating, all of this disruption. It's what's needed. Do you not think that immediately puts the RMT and most rail unions on the back foot?
Well, first of all, he didn't say that. And second of all, I think most people in this country know that wages have been falling for 30 years against the wealth created in this country. And at the same time, the people at the top are getting richer and richer and richer. And now we're in a cost of living crisis. And I think workers in this country, whether in the railway, whether in the NHS or elsewhere, need a pay rise. And if we're going to address the imbalance in this country, wages need to rise.
Let's take you up on that point. Absolutely, I agree. But according to the Department for Transport...
If you agree with that, you must agree with workers standing up and fighting for it.
According to the Department of Transport, the average rail worker's salary is £44,000. You wouldn't disagree with that, which is more...
I disagree with that, yes.
What?
Our average salary of members in the RMT union is between £25,000 and £30,000. Our median salary is £31,000, exactly the same as the national average.
Well, the national average is £24,600.
Well, the national median is 31,000, and that's the same as in the RMT.
Nurses get 31,000, teachers 37, and care workers 17. The fact of the matter is, I'm not sitting here talking about that. I asked you specifically when it is made out as it has been made out. When we hear from the government, we try to look at both sides. I've always tried to look at both sides. The government said, you've walked away and announced this before we've even begun or even got through this process. There seemed to be... All right, let's hear it. But there seemed to be, my friend, a degree of glee when those announcements were made, as if this is us.
Glee. I don't know where you're getting this idea from.
So you feel sorry for the people that will miss out?
Let me tell you this. I think workers in this country ought to stand up on their own 2 feet and fight for better pay, because you don't get it by asking. And if you can't get it by asking, you need to organise and fight to get it. Now, if you're a nurse or a railway worker on 31, 32, 33,000, you can't afford to buy a house. You can't afford to live in this city in London where I am for certain. Now, wages have been falling for 30 years. Mm-hmm. We're subsidising wages with benefits. And at the same time, taxpayers' money is going straight into private profits. We cannot afford to be giving rail companies £500 million a year profits. At the same time, we're telling workers, you can't have a pay rise for 3 years and going forward. That is not on. And this union, I know it's difficult for people, the disruption we're going to face, but we do what it says on the tin. We stand up and fight for our members. And in this fight, we're standing up and fighting for working class people in this country.
How supported...
Others will follow.
How supported was, during the ballot, how supported was the strike call in terms of your members?
It was 9-1 in favour of strike action, Jeremy. It was extremely well supported. And look, we haven't gone straight into that. This is actually a challenge to us in the trade union from our own members. You've got to appreciate we've been talking for 2 years. We don't want to take people out in strike action. They lose money. We don't want to see the disruption in the country. We don't take glee in that.
So let's take that point. So this is good. This is why I wanted you on. You would say to people, this is a necessary action after 2 years of failed negotiations. Wages have dropped over the last 30 years, and our workers have got to a point where there is no other option. That's what you're saying to the British people, yes?
That's what I'm saying, yes. And you've got to appreciate, you've got Ian Bailey in the Bank of England saying we've got to have wage restraint in the country. Now, that's all right if you're Ian Bailey and you're on £500,000 a year. And that's all right if you're
It's all right for Mick Lynch, though. He's on 4 times the national average for a person working in your business. So why doesn't he give some of his money? But he's on 124,000 his package.
No,
we know that.
He's not, though, Jeremy. That's what the Daily Mail says, but that's not true.
How much is he on then?
He's on 85,000.
He's on 85,000. What about everything else he gets on top of that? Allowances that take his package. It's a £124,000 package, Eddie. You know that's a fact.
So
why doesn't he give £80,000 of his money to his trade union comrades?
Jeremy, in that money, they also include the national insurance contributions by the employer.
Okay.
That's not how you work out somebody's pay.
If he's
that
on
is just to get a soundbite.
If
He doesn't earn more than the Prime Minister. He's not on £126,000. He doesn't have a company car. He doesn't live in a mansion. He doesn't do any of those things. He's just a former railway worker like myself who's been elected by his peers to represent them because he's a good trade unionist. And we do what our members want us to do.
I know that you're going to talk over me the whole time. I'm going to give you someone else. Asked on the political thinking with Nick Robinson, the man that you think is not on £124,000, asked if he thought there would be many more disputes as inflation continues to cut real wages, and your boss said, I hope so. And you tell me I'm making up his rhetoric and he doesn't understand, and neither do you, why people are hacked off. Of course they're hacked off because they're done. I used a word glee and you wouldn't have it. I hope so, says Mick Lynch. Come on, he said it, man.
Jeremy,
what does that tell you?
I'll tell you, I hope so too. If you want people to have better wages, then you need to stand by your principles and support people who are prepared to fight for better wages.
What do you say to
That's
the people?
That's the logic of your argument. Either you want us to have better wages or you don't.
So you grind the country to a halt in return for better wages. What do you say to this text, Eddie? And I appreciate you being on. Whether this man likes it or not, he's just made driverless trains a lot closer. This can never happen again in this country where unions get control of us as a country. That's from a punter. What would you say?
I would say driverless trains are already here. Driverless technology is part of the future of the railway. Drivers are only a small portion of the workers on the railway network. We represent members across every portion of the railway industry. Now, as long as there's a railway, there's going to be railway workers.
Mick is one of your union.
Technology forever.
Mick is one of your union. He says, can you ask this gentleman who represents me what job he does and how much he gets paid?
So I'm the Assistant General Secretary of the Trade Union. I get paid £78,000 a year. And when I was a railway worker, I was a driver, and I was on £46,000 a year before I was elected into various jobs before I reached this one. That's my rate of pay.
I guess the problem is, and you would understand this, I don't want to argue, but I just want to say this to you. The problem is, whether or not, right, there is a desire amongst your members for more wages, and certainly, right, inflation going through the roof, food, the crisis that we hear, the length and breadth of this country. But I always feel like saying, and I'm not saying it makes it right or makes it wrong, it's not a moral thing, but in terms of tonally right now to the British public, you might, as you sit there, tell me that you've got no option. There will be zero sympathy about this because you're inconvenience everyday people who are struggling to get on with their lives. I understand you probably find yourself in a position where you don't feel that there's any other option. But it's just, do you understand where I'm coming from on that, Eddie? It's just I do,
Jeremy.
You want the public on your side, don't you?
Jeremy, I do. And we get a lot more public support than you'd imagine by looking at the media, OK? So a lot of public opinion is driven by what you read in the press and what the media says, right? But I know postal workers, I know NHS workers, I know workers in retail, in the shopping centres who are feeling the pinch, and they wish they had organisations to stand up and fight too. And some of them do, by the way. So I do hope more workers in more industries stand up and take this fight on, because I'm hoping that will be what is needed to make the government change course. Boris says the cost of living crisis is priority. Well, let's see something real about that. And you've got to appreciate what they want to do in the railway. It's not just about pay, Jeremy. They want to slash thousands and thousands of jobs out of the industry.
Can I say something? I know that. Can I say something? There are 25%. Eddie, there are 25% less people taking trains since the pandemic, right? This taxpayer on us. 16 billion we've paid. 16 billion, that's 600 quid per household during the pandemic. I just think we're all getting to a point where we can't afford it. And I can't go on forever, but I have to say this to finish, right? You might well have grievances and you might well think you deserve money, but right now, the way that it's being done to us isn't a great look. That is all I am saying. And when you hear Mick Lynch going, I hope there's more industrial action, I'm telling you, the people that watch this, the people that listen to this, they have no sympathy and they won't back your cause. If you did it differently, they might.